You have the ability to add your own form to your library if you can't find the form you need in the master library. Now, before building a form, you'll have to scan the form into your computer and save it as a JPEG. It's very important that your scanned document has been scanned as straight as possible. It may take a try or two to get the one you're happy with, or if you've created a form in a word processor like Word and then converted it to a JPEG, that will work as well. So once it's scanned into your computer, you can then upload it into your IMS. Now to do that, the first thing you do is you go up to System Settings, then you go over to Print Engine, and that's going to default to My Forms. And what you want to do here is go Add New Form. And we'll collapse the menu to make this a little easier to work with. First thing you're going to have to do is name your form. And we're building one called Work Excuse. The items you see here with the exclamation mark, this is required information. So we need the size of the form, the width, and the height. This is in inches, of course. What the offset is, if you find that once your form is printed the fields are not aligned properly, you can adjust the offset, which will adjust the fields to properly align them on your form. So it's very helpful. We don't need that right off the bat. The image is actually the JPEG file that you've created, and you'll have to browse for that on your system. So you click the Browse button, and go to your Files folder, and here's my work excuse that I've created, and it's JPEG form. Click on that and open, and you'll see it's all set and ready to go. Set your country. If it is particular to a country, we're going to make this a universal form because just about anybody can use it, and you see that the province state automatically defaults to universal. And we're going to share this form because others may find it useful, so it will now be available in the master library. Fold type is pretty obvious as to, you can see the different options that you do have here, but this is just a straight form, so we'll leave it on the default, which is the full page. And the can print background. That's what the BG stands for, background. If you have a form, a government issued form that you have to print to the government issued form itself, you would leave this set as no, because you can arrange the fields, but it will only print the data to that form. If you can print the background from the system onto a plain piece of paper, then you would set this to yes, you can print that, because that's an option that's asked when you're actually printing a form. If you need to reset this because you've got incorrect information, you could click the reset. That would clear everything and you do it all over again. But if everything's correct, just click the save. It uploads your form, and there it is. And for safe measures, I'm going to click save again. Now, an important thing to remember when you're building a form, you need to make sure that every box or section that requires data has a field added to it. That's how the system pulls the data from a record onto the form itself. There are formatting options available for all fields, as I will show you shortly, and you can just drag and drop any field where you need it onto the form. So something to keep in mind, we do have almost 900 fields in here for forms. And you can narrow those down by clicking the drop down and selecting the deceased basic information or the contact information. And you'll see that it does narrow down the amount of fields that are available in that section. And you can click the little arrow to go to the last of them. And then back again. We also have static text fields, which we'll get into shortly. We have custom fields that have been created for this system specifically that can be used if you have custom information. So you see we do have a vast selection of fields that can go on forms. I'm going to leave it set on all for the moment. Something to keep in mind also is that some words may be different in the system than on the form. Like if the form is calling for the sex of the deceased, in the system itself you would look under gender. That will bring up whether it's male or female. Once you've decided your form is in and you need to start putting fields in, as you can see in this form, this is to verify the death of, so we're obviously going to need the name of the deceased. One of the quickest ways to find a field that you're looking for is to use the search. So we need the name of the deceased, so we're going to put in first name, and you'll see that in our list right here is the deceased's first name. So I just click on that, drag it, and drop it where I need it. And now I'm going to need the deceased last name. And once again, there you see it's in our list. Very easily click it on it, drag it, and drop it onto the form. We can format these. Up here we can select the font that we want to use on the form and the font size. I'm going to set this at 16, and that'll give you an idea of the size of the font. We're going to do the same with the deceased last name. We go to font, font size, and you'll see they match up. Now you'll notice these fields overlap each other. If you need to shrink the size of a field or adjust the size, just click on it and you'll notice that you can make it very small and stretch it out, make it large. You can adjust the fields to any size that you require. You can even go in there, shrink it down a bit. You can also combine fields. Hold your control key, click on this one, you'll see that we have both of them highlighted right now. If you right click, you can now group together. The group together function works very well for addresses and such when you want to put in the name of the funeral home, street address, city, state or province, that sort of thing. This option allows you to group them all together. It will automatically put a space in here, but then you also get some punctuation options. Add another space. You have a dash, slash, put in a comma if needed. Obviously between the names we don't need that. So we're good with that. And you'll see that we have the deceased first name, deceased last name that combine together now. You can also format how this is going to print out, where we could capitalize all words, capitalize the name, capitalize first letter only. You can set your format that way. Next in here, we need the date of death. So I'm going to search. And then you'll see we have the date of death field right there. Grab it, we drop it, move it over. I'm going to set the field size down to this. And I'm going to format. This font size, I'll drop it down a couple. And you'll see how we put fields on the form. Should you have a form that you have check boxes in? We'll search for gender. That's an obvious one a lot of times. We'll just drop this in here as an example. But gender of deceased, sometimes they'll request the full spelling, whether it's male or female, or it'll be a checkbox for male or female. If you have that sort of situation, just click on it, and you'll see that you can convert to X mark. And it will put the X there. You're probably going to want to shrink that field down a little bit. But wherever the box is for the X mark, you would just drag that right over it. And then it's going to put the X in for you. Another option you have in formatting is if you're not liking the way it lines up on it, you can align the text automatically by centering it. So this will automatically center in the field. Same with this, we could do the text line as center. Now one little tip I have when you're working on a form and you're building your own form, a lot of times it's easier to work through a record, as that way you can actually see the information that's being pulled onto the form while you're doing the editing. So I'm going to save what I have here. I'm going to close it. Go to Main, select a record, and now we go to Printing and Forms Printing. I'll have to go to My Forms, Universal, and there's my work excuse, which I'd better check as one of my favorites, and I'll go Preview. And you can see the fields that I've added are pulling the information as we like. I'll collapse the menu again. As I mentioned, a lot of times it's easier to edit and create your form right in a record because you can actually see the data that's coming over. So if you click on Modify Fields, for example, the date field, if I click on that, I have formatting options as to how the date's going to appear. It's defaulted to year, month, and day, but I may want it to appear like this. I can move the field. So you can see how working in the actual record gives you a better idea of how it's going to look in the end. So now I want to add the city of death location, so I'll search for place of death. And here we have place of death city name, which I need in this spot. I'll collapse that field a little bit. I'll center it. I'm going to change the font to match everything else. But you'll notice this is all in capitals. You do have the option here in formatting, where you would just capitalize words. And you'll notice that we now have it put in there properly. Now I'll need the state or province. So I'm going to have to click through my selection. And there you see the place of death, state, province. If I click and drag that in, we want to leave those capitalized because that is the state, but we will set the font to match the rest. And you'll see how easy that is. Now, should you need to remove a field, such as my X box that I marked in here, you would just right click on it, and in the drop down here, hiding a little bit, you'll see that we do have the delete option. I can move that up for you. Right click again. I just click delete. Am I sure? Yes. Okay. Should you need to add information that's not in the record itself, you can use a static field. And we need a static text box here. You would drop that. Now what you have to do, because if you don't change this, it'll come up with static text on your form every time. You right click on it and edit. So this label is going to be and you will take out the static text. Delete that because, as you said, that was the default value. That would show on the form every time. So we'll just save that. Now, should you need to enter data, you'll see that that static field comes up and you can put in and you'll see how that's been added to the form. Okay, so you can put in a field if you just need to add something in there. Maybe it's a specific date, maybe it's a specific location, what have you, whatever information, if you need to add it, you can use a static field. I want to delete that one, so I right click, and it's gone from the system. We also have today's date, which you'll see will pop in automatically and populate that for you, should you need it. We have static time, which you can alter if need be. You can add a prayer. And you'll see that that field is quite large generally. So you have plenty of options and plenty of fields for you to add in there. Now, should you put your form together and the fields aren't lined up and you're sitting there moving them around, trying to get them to line up, we have a much easier system for you. Click on the first field, hold the control key, click on the second field and the third one. Now when you right click, you'll see that you have these options for alignment. And what we want to do with those three is align the top edge. So all three of them are perfectly straight across the form for you. Makes your form look nice and neat. You can also do this. I'm going to move these fields over here to show you how this works. You can also do this alignment on the side of the page. So I click my first field, click my second one, and the third. Right click. Now I want to align the left edge. And you'll see how they've all popped over there. It's a little offset because I haven't got my fields perfectly matched up and I have some centering and some not. But you can see how you can get that to align. I can actually fix that rather quickly. If I center that. They're all aligned properly right down the side of the page. So you see you can set the alignment across the page, and you can set the alignment for the columns too as need be. You also have the option to add custom fields to your form. If you've created custom fields in your system, click your drop down, click on your custom fields, and you can see that we have storage location, time of disposition, fields that may not be in the system that you've created a custom field. You can use your custom fields on the form just the same as you do with any other field. Once you filled that field in the record, it will pull to the form for you. Once you've added all the fields to your form that you need, and you preview to see how it's looking, if you're happy the way things will line up, you save your form. And it's all set for use. So every time you come in here now, click on your preview of the form if need be to fill in any information that may have been missed. Your form will come up, it'll be populated with all the data from the record, and you'll be all set. Should you have any questions on how to add a form to your system, be sure and contact your project manager or send us an email, support@frontrunner360.com.